little bit of a hangover from the current election, regardless of the camp that you're parked at. This was a long one, dramatic, emotional. I think some people are still recovering.
100%.
Today we're going to do, hopefully in a good spirited manner, maybe reflect where the markets are in terms of real estate and interest rates, what's going on now, a week past election, what could be happening in the next 1, 2, 3 months. All these things will give you more perspective and guidance while you're making your decision whether to buy a new home, move, or refinance your current mortgage. Today, of course, we've got Michael, myself, Casey, and a special guest. Say hello.
Hi, my name is Chloe.
Oh, super cute. Nice job, Chloe.
Yeah, good job,
Be
Chloe.
relaxed on this thing. Or maybe you choose not to do something too. Maybe you're just sitting back waiting until 2025.
Yeah, maybe that's the best choice for you.
Do you feel like most people that you talk with, like whether it's management, other than like the Barry Habibs of the world,
Mr.
are
Barry.
just not giving their predictions anymore? I feel like a lot of people are like, I'm just going to like step back of what we think is going to happen.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, even leading up to the election, my opinion was if Harris won, I thought we'd see really less volatility. Like probably a slower draw out. The Feds will continue to decrease, kind of like what we were seeing maybe in the summer of this year with rates and the economy and whatnot. My biggest fear was a retraction of a lot of the positive data that the Feds were announcing in August and September. I wasn't quite sure if that was proper rounding, we'll call it. So my fear was, not even a fear, my prediction was if Harris was going to be president, you'd see the Feds pull back on that and actually say, hey, inflation isn't quite perfect. Unemployment's
Just
actually
kidding.
worse. Well, they do that all the time. So there was some eyebrow-raising, convenient data being pushed out where I was like, interesting. But I even told all my clients, if Trump was elected, I really had no idea. And I think that's fair. To your point, it's like you can't even make a prediction right now. We've got a few more months till he's in office, right?
I've had people say like, do you feel like with Trump rates are going to shift? If so, when? I'm like how quickly? I'm like, he's literally not even in office yet.
Yeah, you're like January 13th. I have it on my count now. You're like, you have no idea. I think it's really challenging to tell. I mean, you got a couple different things. I think the biggest conversation is the tariffs. How's that going to impact the world economy? How is that going to impact importing business and different micro economies as well? And then potentially what's going to happen in the Fed. Jerome Powell, the chair, running the whole show there. He even said on his most recent speech that if he was asked to leave, he wouldn't. So I think there could be some
Good to know.
There could be some interesting drama there. Yeah. But if there's a reform in the Fed, there could be a completely different analytical procedure. Is that the way to say it? Or data used to decide what they're doing. There's a lot of unknown. But I think in the short term, we talk about, hey, you see the stock market just exploding. I think that's
Tesla's
where we're
up
seeing.
what?
Big time.
Yeah.
Just yesterday morning, my phone was hitting, like I have the Yahoo Finance notifications, and it was like all-time high, 52-week high, 52-week high, ding, 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 ding.
Yep.
So I think for someone in the market to buy or refinance, your first is like, oh, wow, well, how mortgage rates are impacted is maybe you see those stocks going up. Mortgage rates are typically tied to the treasuries and the bonds. So you have less people investing in those. So you see the interest rates going up on the mortgage end. It's more complicated than that, but we try to keep it kind of fun.
Well, I think that is, for the most part, we say like the markets are always opposite for the most part. And right now, I just don't think that we're seeing that as much. And I think that's really what's been the issue for the last 2 years is like there's just every piece of data. I mean, we have decades and decades of history and data that we use to predict what the market's going to do. And that hasn't, especially with COVID, like post-COVID, obviously that was a whole nother ball game. But after that, that data hasn't been as consistent. The patterns haven't been as consistent. So I think it's throwing people off on what their predictions are going to be.
I love that you bring that up. There's it's a totally different world.
Yeah.
In terms of spending.
It's kind of like starting the clock over of like, okay, now post-COVID, how are those patterns going to evolve moving forward? I feel like, and maybe that's a very big thing to say.
No, I think that's.
No, I think
big
that's- yeah.
economist over here.
Yeah, you're
I
a
think
big time
that's-
economist over there.
I remember reading a lot
I mean,
about
it makes
that,
sense. Yeah.
where there was a lot of adjustments made because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And they were
100%.
from outdated traditional ways of fixing problems on a very modern, never been in this situation before.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like one thing that's like important and like you touched on it to consumers is just like the correlation because a lot of times they look at it and like the stock market, they're like, hey, markets are doing good, they're up, but they don't understand like stocks might be improving, but the bond market might be decreasing because bond market's safe to be invested in, doesn't have as much volatility, and then stock market obviously can have a lot of swings. So if you have investors pumping a lot of money into stocks, typically that means they've maybe moved their money out of bonds, and you see bonds not performing as well, which directly correlates to rates. So rates might be performing as well either.
Yeah. I mean, just all over the place.
But we've also
last
seen it
week.
too, where they both improved at the same time. So it's like you can't bank on that either. So
I think it's super confusing for consumers when you just saw Jerome Powell announce another 25 basis point reduction. And then if you called us and you're like, oh, wow, interest rates are actually higher. I mean, I had a client just last week. They got into contract Monday before the election, blocked their rate, and then that house didn't work out. So they terminated, got into contract again over this weekend. And then just in 1 week, pretty dynamic difference. We're talking anywhere between 1,500 to 2,000 more in closing costs for the same terms on the previous house.
yeah.
So that's a pretty dramatic shift.
And your clients that are looking to refinance, like we're really trying to time that market on rates. Like that's like really the
Like
part
there was
that's
that
like
1 week pocket in September where rates dropped, taxes hadn't been paid, so we were kind of holding tight till after the election, and taxes were paid in Oregon, which is just kind of a complicated
Yeah.
2 months in our local area. And now the opportunity is a little bit missed. And so people are like, I have borrowers are like, okay, well, we were looking at $400 in savings. Now we're looking at closer to $275. Do we hang tight? It's all, I mean, that's where we can help guide a little bit, but it's still, it's hard.
It's really challenging. I think the only, all of the buyers that I've been working with have been taking advantage of the 2-1 seller paid buy down approach, which I think we've covered that before.
Yeah.
But
You're still seeing that?
Oh, I think that's 7 of my last 8 purchases all have had the 2-1 seller paid buy down. So just to recap on that, it's a temporary interest rate reduction rather than a permanent interest rate reduction. And the cost is determined by the total amount of your loan and the full interest rate. So that'll crank out some sort of figure for the sellers. They have to pay for 100% of it. Depending on your loan range, it's going to be anywhere from $7,000 to about $14,000, and seller profit contributed toward this benefit. So the 2-1 benefit is first year you get a 2% decrease on your full interest rate. Your second year it's a 1%, and then year 3 the full note rate comes into effect. And the strategy there is like, oh wow, I'm saving $800 my first year, $400 on my second
Month.
per month. And then my full payment doesn't even come into effect until year 3. So it's a little bit of a controlled risk where you're looking, hey, the probability of me having an opportunity to refinance prior to this full interest rate coming into play is pretty high.
Yep.
You still have to have your own funds for the other closing costs and things of that nature. But what I really like about that program is, unlike a permanent interest rate buy down, when you refinance on a permanent interest rate buy down, all that money that you use to reduce that interest rate essentially goes away. So if you had a 3-year break even on the points you paid on your note and you refinance in 8 to 16 months, those funds are washed away. Now, on a temporary interest rate buy down, any unused credits from that seller profit at time of refinancing, if you're doing that before that year 3 hits, we can take the unused credits and actually apply it as a principal reduction. So
deal.
it's a huge deal. It's just money that isn't wasted. So I'm a big fan.
Yeah, and a
of
lot of
that.
people don't know that either. It's not like they're like, well, did that money just go back to the sellers? Does escrow keep that money? You know,
Right.
like it's actually
Goes
used
back to
where,
us.
yeah, it goes right back to us in our pockets, and we take our kids to Disneyland. No,
Yeah, right.
I wish. We just talked about fraud. That's we're not
wish.
doing any of that. But that's where people like. It's good to know because it's actually a better route to where, as like when you buy points down, and if you don't make it past that break even, you're wasting money.
What if you do?
make it past the break even, now you're in the green and you're saving money.
But you didn't do the permanent rate buy down.
Right.
No, I'm saying like if you paid points for a permanent on your own and don't do the temporary, right? Like if you buy it down and you do that math of how much it actually costs you on the point side to pay versus how much the savings, like you get your break even point. And that's why I explained to a lot of clients, they're like, well, why don't I just buy 3 points down on the rate? It's like, well, here's why. Because if it takes you 6 years to reach that break even point and you refinance prior, like you might be wasting several thousand of savings that you're not actually anticipating on.
Well, yeah, there's other considerations too. Like there's maximum amount of fees a borrower can pay, or you're typically capped at a total 3% charge on a conventional loan.
I just
you can't
ran
even
into
get
that.
there. Yeah, that's a problem.
Which is
Additionally,
why the seller has to come in.
yeah, I haven't even seen like the use of funds toward a permanent interest rate buy down haven't been as impactful as they were 5 years ago.
100%.
Like, and how I maybe to give that in consumer terms is like you used to be able to spend $2,000 and maybe reduce the interest rate by a quarter of a percentage, 0.25. And now that might take you $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 sometime to even see a quarter of a point decrease. So the permanent interest rate buy downs aren't as impactful. Kind of looping it back to why I've been chalking up these 2-1 seller
Yeah,
rate buy downs.
more impactful for sure.
Especially when you're looking at new construction right now. I think that's a good transition. I think you'll see in Q4 a lot of aggressive new construction builders offering big incentives on a billboard. Like they're butted up here to the end of the year. They got to sell their inventory. So you'll see $20,000, $30,000 in credits, and a lot of that's going to be, hey, well, we'll add 10, 15,000 of that to a 2-1 buy down. Then we'll use the 10,000 for your other closing costs. Then you've got some for blind, sod, fencing, all these things. Yep. The biggest thing to be mindful of that is your maximum interest party contributions. So there's different levels of allowable credits from the sellers depending on your down payment in your loan program. So that's something you'll want to make sure you're communicating with Casey or Michael or myself prior to offering. I have seen some newbie agents do big whoopsies on that, and the sellers know the max credits.
Better.
Sometimes they'll counter over, but we'll give you 50,000 in credits, knowing that you can only get 25. But if an agent doesn't know that and the lender like us isn't involved, and they go through all these negotiations without checking, you can really stub your toe there. I don't know why I said stub your toe.
It's
No,
true.
you can really, I mean, you can do it. Like,
True
we've
toe
all
stub.
seen it. It's just a pretty big old toe stub turns into like an ingrown nail, and it's like
Ew.
you're screwed, you know?
Wow.
The
Too far.
the maxo is something to have like those serious conversations with your loan officer about, because each loan too has max amounts of credits that can be used. It could be either 3%, 4%, or 6%, depending on different types of either down payments or types of loan. And then you can't just go spend a bunch of money like buying points and stuff too. Like you just mentioned, there is a max amount of like fees and points and costs that are allowed on a loan. I just had a refinance and the client was trying to do that, and that specific type of loan, it was a brokered deal. It had a cap of 5%. You can only allow 5% fees and points and stuff
Which is
like
pretty
that.
high.
Which is
really
pretty, yeah, which is pretty high. And so for them, we just adjusted the rate, you know, instead of them buying it down, they went up higher in rate, and it worked out. They weren't too happy about it out of the gate, but I was able to explain to them, you can't just go spend a bunch of money on the loan, you know.
Well, yeah. I mean, and there's reasons behind that, because there are some jackwads out there that
That will do that.
predatory lending.
Predatory. Yeah, Michael's been all over your CE recently.
true.
Oh, yeah, are you done?
She's not.
I'm done.
Good.
Praise be.
Fraud,
Congratulations.
predatory lending. She's all over it.
Yeah.
I just heard an interesting story. I won't name names, but an agent went into contract with a new build.
Okay.
And within the contract, it was agreed upon that the buyers would pay their agent the commission. So the sellers were refusing to pay the buyer agent commission. It's the first time I've seen this since like the whole NAR settlement thing.
Okay.
They close, and this goes on the agent's fault. She didn't check the final settlement paperwork. The escrow officer did not include a line item for buyer agent commission for the buyers to be paid. So it just wasn't on there. So she did not
Didn't
get
get
paid.
paid.
And then the house closed, everyone had signed on everything, and now they have an unresolved commission agreement that needs to be taken care of post-closing. So
Wow.
I know there are
That
some
would be
agents out there that
that would
listen and watch
suck.
to this. Watch to this? That
Watch and
wasn't
listen.
said right.
We got
There's
finance degrees, not English
forewarning.
degrees.
I mean, when you get
That
that
makes me want to throw up a little.
agent demand and you get to review your draft on the agent side of the final settlement, but look at it.
I mean, it's proof that there are some people that still aren't fully educated on such a huge, huge change to the real estate industry.
I think that was, I don't know, my conspiracy theory is something between the builder. I think that was requested to be removed. I don't know if they needed it to be removed to qualify for the loan because they didn't have all
Cash
the
to
cash
close.
on hand. I don't know. I'm just in the
The
bleachers.
story gets
Yeah.
juicier.
I'm turning it into gossip.
Speaking
hour,
of,
sorry.
are you guys coming to the Oregon Mortgage Bankers Association panel? We're going to be talking about NAR with 4 agents.
Oh, wow. I wasn't planning
That
on
was
that.
just a little plug.
Little plug there.
Yeah, you guys should sign up.
Well, Michael's part of the
December
OMBA.
4th.
December 4th. You send me the thing. I'll sign up for it.
Do you
I'll
have
come
any
support.
suggestions for buyers and buyers agents right now? I mean, what are your guys' vibe working with your certain agents and how they're handling the buyer agreements and all of that stuff?
I feel like the agents that I work with
Mm-hmm.
predominantly are very, very, like they've spent so much time getting
Right.
educated. I mean, I go to one of my agents' company meetings and they've had their principal broker, the owner of their company in
Mm-hmm.
for weeks on weeks to their company meetings just to make sure that everybody is very clear. So
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that doesn't happen. And it's a huge conversation that needs to be very clear with the buyer up front, needs to be very clear with the seller. I have heard of a few. I think it was when this first came out, there was like 4 houses that didn't have the seller paid concessions,
Right.
and I'm sure it's significantly more now. But
Have you had it come up on any transactions? Like I've had it only on
Have
one
you?
where they're like not going to pay the buyer's agent. Like, and at the end of the day, we came back and like I knew the listing agent. I'd worked with her, not like together with buyers and stuff, but knew her through the business and stuff like that.
Give her a call.
Yeah, I gave her a call and talked her through because they weren't getting a ton of offers on this property, and it's
Right.
like really the difference is, you know, the house was valued a little bit low. They listed it a little bit lower, so it's like, okay, well, let's maybe bring the listing price up to, you know, more market price and make sure everyone gets
Robbing
paid.
Peter to
and-
pay Paul. I think that is. I had a deal where they weren't paying for it, and the sellers weren't paying for the commission, and my buyer's agent went to them and said, "Okay, if we adjust the purchase price to X, Y, and Z, will you cover that?" And they did.
Yeah.
So I think that was a piece that I wasn't clear on. It's like if you just because the seller says that they are not going to pay the seller concessions doesn't necessarily mean that they won't. It's just still up for negotiation.
I think
That's
a good
another
point.
piece of negotiation that they have to go through. Where if it was
Yeah.
just they are paying for it, then it's settled. But if it's not, then that's another layer.
Yeah, I haven't seen any commission.
Here I go with my hands again.
No, I like that. Tell us. I haven't
She's
personally
Italian.
ran into that with my clients yet, but I did run into a couple of issues with sellers trying to find a new place to live and struggling with low inventory depending on the location. I work in 4 different states, so there's kind of different markets in every different states, but every different, man, I'm on a roll today.
You're overthinking it.
Example is buyer gets into contract 30 days to close. Seller is then going to try to go get into contract on their new home and cannot because of low inventory. And then they want to extend the close. And that's always a really tough conversation because one particular client of mine, we had maximum allowed credits already. So they wanted to give more credits to stay longer,
Right back,
but
yeah.
we're capped out, can't do any more. And then we would have to extend the lock, which would cost, I don't know what it was ranking at, like $150 to $250 a day. And that's money that my first time home buyers do not want to spend on. So
Yep.
there were some tough conversations where it's like, hey, you know, it's not our fault that you have a horse and need a barn and all this stuff. Like you're going to have to rent for a while and figure that out. So that's something to look into, and I think stay firm because there are a lot of really nice people out there who want to be flexible and play nice on the playground. But then at a certain point, you'd be like, okay, we gave you a 50-day close. Like,
Yeah.
can't put you up at the Hilton, you know?
Trying to make everybody happy. That's our job.
That's our job.
keep the pieces together.
Oh my gosh, there's so many people involved in a transaction. People forget about it. It's like we're communicating constantly with title buyers, agent, listing agents, their TCs, assistants here, our own clients.
Yeah.
We're just like, a wealth of communication and
Connectors.
counseling.
Connectors.
Yeah.
Counseling.
What does Chloe think?
I was gonna say, Chloe, do you even know what we do?
No.
No. If you're gonna guess what we do for work, I know you know, but like.
You help people find homes and you help them buy it.
Yeah, close.
I think that's pretty good. How would you explain it?
How would I explain
Yeah.
it?
At her age.
Oh,
That's pretty
I
spot
was
on.
gonna like go into like my
You're like,
sales.
well.
Like I was gonna do what I always do to clients.
Your value prop. Here's my value prop
Yeah.
speech.
That's my value prop. We help them with the financing of their home purchases. Simple like that. Exactly. It totally is.
It's very important.
Yeah, it's very important.
I like that.
Do you know what a loan is?
No.
It's like an advancement on your allowance. Do you get allowance?
Yeah.
How much do you get per week or month? I don't know how Casey pays you.
Me and my friend the other day babysitted my sister and we each got $20.
What?
It was for like 2 hours.
Wow.
That's more than that.
So if we were to give you $100, that would be a loan based on you getting $20 a week.
Which means you'd owe us like 5 babysittings.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is that worth it?
Yeah.
Really?
Me and my friend
You
have
could
a
have all that
babysitting
money
business.
up front.
Do?
You have a
How,
nice.
how old do you take?
From like really any age,
Nice.
just like not older than us.
I mean, it'd be kind of weird babysitting someone older than
Yeah.
Some adults need babysitters.
That's
though.
true.
Yeah.
You could go pitch some care homes.
What's your babysitting business called?
We don't have a name.
Ooh, we got to get you a business plan.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the Babysitters Club movie?
Oh.
1999?
The original.
Did you just pull that out of here?
Babysitters Club.
That's not the song.
No.
No, but
I
it's
thought
such a
that's how
good
it
movie. Oh,
Come
man.
on. Yeah.
She finds like her boyfriend in Europe and he comes back and she's deciding should she babysit? Should she be with her boyfriend? It's complicated.
Wasn't that a TV
book
TV show
series.
before?
Book series.
Oh, book series. Yeah, I don't read.
So good.
And then had the one girl on it from 10 Things I Hate About You.
Well, would you like to do our closing outro?
What is it?
Well, you're gonna say thank you everyone for watching and listening.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Do a
Subscribe
closeout.
below.
Okay. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Bye.
That was good.
That was perfect. Thank you, Chloe.
Yes.
The MLO Show is hosted by Casey Carpenter, NMLS 1458123, Addie Nett, NMLS 1542184, Michael Mealy, NMLS 963197. Not a commitment to lock or lend. Terms and restrictions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Mortgage Express, LLC, NMLS Company ID 40831. Licensed in Arizona, Oregon, Washington, California, Idaho. With licensing in California by Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, DFPI, under the Residential Mortgage Act. Mortgage Express is an equal housing lender. For more information, visit www.nmlsconsumeraccess.org.